Hey friends, welcome back to another budget-friendly DIY video. Today we're working on some summer slash patriotic DIYs, but with a spin. Today we're going to be doing some more neutral themed patriotic DIYs. I love color. I do a lot of color for my patriotic DIYs. I've got some other videos if you want to check them out, but I thought today it'd be fun to do a more rustic muted version. But of course you can add color to any of these if you want to recreate them that way. But let's get into our first DIY. First up, I have this pack of wood stars. I think this is from Hobby Lobby. They come in different sizes, but you could also just print one off or freehand it. But I'm just using this to trace it out on some cardboard. This is a very thin cardboard. It's actually like the insert that comes on like a calendar, when you buy a calendar. So I like it because it's a little bit flexible. I also liked it because I already had it on hand. This DIY is super, super budget friendly. So I ended up doing, I think, a total of 8 of these. I'm not going to show those all to you, but we're going to cut it out. The flexible cardboard makes it easy to kind of just like get into all of the curves and whatnot. So here we go. I think I only have 5 here, but I ended up doing more than that altogether. And then I went through my stash and I was like, what do I have? We're going for some neutral patriotic DIYs. So I picked out some different yarn or twine that I had. I think that yarn is a little bit easier because it is thicker, but it can be expensive. So I just went with what I had on hand, and I recommend using finger protectors. I burnt myself several times during this process. So getting around the points is a little bit tricky, but we're just going to wrap them around. I started out by just taping the first piece because my hot glue gun wasn't quite ready yet, but then I'm going in with some hot glue. Ideally, you don't use a ton of hot glue, but to keep it around the points, I kind of had to. And so what you want to do is just twist and wrap and twist and wrap. I like to make sure that it looks good on both sides of the piece. I did do these previously for Valentine's Day with some hearts, but I thought it'd be fun again to do for the patriotic season. And I do a lot of red, white, and blue, but sometimes it's fun to, mix in some neutrals. So you're gonna just do every which way. I like it to be, like, I kind of have to go in the same direction at times to cover like the tips, but then I like to mix it up by going a little bit crisscrossy. Crisscrossy, is that a word? This is dangerous, but I did it and didn't have a problem. But everything here is flammable, including the cardboard underneath. But I just was burning up some of the fuzzies. And the other upside to when you're doing this is you don't have to have every star or shape doesn't need to be perfect because you're going to be wrapping it with yarn, so you can kind of add to areas if you need to. But I just chose 3 colors, and if you just use stuff that you already kind of have on hand, this can be an incredibly budget-friendly DIY. And I just piled these into a galvanized truck that I have in my decor, and I love how this came out. I thought it was just a fun little subtle nod to the patriotic season. Up next, we're going to make a banner. So I have these wood banner pieces. I think you can pick these up at like Hobby Lobby or any craft store. We're going to go in with some Waverly antique wax, and I am brushing it on. Clearly professional work here. But we're going to brush that on, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a baby wipe or with a paper towel, but you can also use a baby wipe, however you want to do this. And I did both sides, even though you're really only going to be able to see one side, but I wanted it, the whole thing to be finished. I'm putting a little bit of Mod Podge here, only in the center because we're going to stencil, and I wasn't sure if that would help with any possible bleed through because of the antique wax. I wasn't sure, so that's what I did. And then I have these stencils. I want to say I picked them up from Walmart. I'm not sure. I've had them for a long time. They are adhesive, although there's probably a way for me to get the fuzzies off the back. They're not as adhesive friendly as they used to be. And they moved around a little bit with the antique wax, but we made it work. I also think I put the S on upside down. So oops, maybe you wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out, but I'm going to hold them in place so they don't shift on me. And I'm using a pouncer brush and some white acrylic paint. And just don't go too heavy on the paint because then you're more likely to have some bleed through there underneath the stencil. So we're going to go and do USA. And then here's the reveal. It came out pretty good. I'm showing you, I am wiping that with a baby wipe or a wet paper towel or something like immediately. And then I did go in, my head's in the way, but I filled in the gap in the A. That's just how the stencil was, and I didn't want it to have that gap. And then on the other two pieces, we're just going to stencil on a star. This is a star stencil that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. And once again, don't do too much paint. I should have taped off some of those little stars because I was trying so hard to not get paint in those little stars that it was a little bit of a challenge if I just covered them up with some painter's tape. That would have been a little bit easier. I thought 2 stars would be nice because we're going to have one on either side of the USA, but you can do any phrase or word or design, obviously, that you want. I am going to go in and seal this with some Mod Podge. I don't know if it was necessary. Well, it was mostly necessary because I'd only put Mod Podge on a little bit of it, like the center where I was going to be painting in the beginning, so it didn't all have like the same finish. So I probably didn't need to seal the paint in that much, but anyways, I'm showing you I'm just using a little wooden skewer to clean out the Mod Podge so it didn't goop up in the hole. Once that was fully dried, we're going to make our little banner. So I have some of this beige and white twine that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And then I also have some tassels that I've previously made from them. I have a bunch of tassels that I've used in other DIYs that I've just saved. And so I pulled some out and I just put some painter's tape on the edge to kind of make like a needle to make the threading of this easier. And I'm going to do a tassel in between each banner piece. And I am choosing to, what I'm using here is a little hook to open up that tassel. You wouldn't have to do that. If you make the tassels as you go, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about it. I decided to thread so the string was in front on the banner, but you could also do it from behind depending on what look you like. I think I just poked myself there. We're going to thread this together with as many tassels as you want, as few as you want. You could also add some beads in there. And here I have it just displayed on an old roll top desk. I think I'm actually going to move it in my decor to the front area of my house, but this worked perfect to display it for you. And I love how this one came out. Up next, we're going to use this metal board. This was actually a clipboard that I used took the screws out and took the clip part off the top. You can see where the holes are on the side there. I elevated this on some cans of paint just so that I could do the sides and everything and not have it, you know, flat on a surface. So I actually do that for the whole part of this DIY. What I mean by that is I had it raised on some paint bottles the whole time. So I'm going to give this a good coat of Mod Podge to start because I thought that the paint would adhere better if I put Mod Podge, just because paint and metal don't always adhere very well. And then I'm going in with Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. We're going to put a good coat. It's not like a perfect coat, but it's also not like a rough coat. I did go for full coverage, but I only did one coat, so it's pretty thin, but it's okay because we're going to be adding some more to this on top of the white. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. It lets YouTube know that you enjoy my content and makes them more likely to share my content with others. So of course that helps me out. So giving the video a thumbs up and leaving me a comment down below, all of those forms of engagement help me out so much. Once my paint is fully dry, we're going to go in with some antique wax once again, and I'm just going to brush this on. I'm going to give a pretty good coat. And I'm going to do the whole thing before I wipe any of it back because I'm not really trying to wipe off a lot of it. And I don't mind brush strokes here. I'm trying to get a full coverage, but I'm okay with, I don't know, you'll just have to see, I guess, how it comes out in the end. So I'm wiping it off now with just a paper towel. And once again, I have this kind of elevated on some bottles of paint, just kind of made it a little bit easier. It was moving around on me, but it did make it easier to get to all of the edges because it's a super flat piece. So, well, you'll see it how it looks. So I've got some stickers. These are ones I picked up on clearance from Hobby Lobby. But you can see the brush strokes and like kind of the start and stop of the brush. It kind of looks a little bit like wood grain to me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I do like how this came out. And now I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I want to place my letters. I tried to like center it, but then not all letters are like the same width. And so some of them I ended up having to move them. But I'm using a little pair of tweezers, just a little tip for you that helps a lot when you are trying to place stickers. I find that works really, really, I don't know, I think it works really well for placing down the stickers. I like the font of these stickers because it's kind of like, they're not perfect. It's a little bit more, they're
Reminds me of the font that I've seen on called Comic Sans or whatever. I don't know. So I'm just pulling out another form of a ruler, and we're gonna move these around. But the tweezers is really nice, and if you noticed, one, the stickers will not stick well to antique wax, but I also didn't push them down all the way. I just kind of pushed them down at the bottom because I wanted it to be easy for me to move these. So we're gonna get our stickers in place where we want, and I'm just writing, as you can see, America. And I'm just making sure that there's about the same amount on each side. And now we're placing our stickers down. So I have these other stickers, which I think were also probably from Hobby Lobby at some point. I don't know, I typically pick up stickers when they're on sale or on clearance, as these ones were and the last ones. And I'm just, once again, trying to get them straight at the bottom. And I put established 1776. And then I've got my star stencil from Hobby Lobby. And I'm just trying to make sure the star is centered. And this time I did decide to tape off the extra star so I didn't have to worry about it. And we're stenciling in a little white star at the top. It's better to do a couple of coats rather than do too much paint at once when you're stenciling. So if you have to go over it a couple times, that's better than putting too much at first. So as you can see, these stickers are not super staying straight because of the antique wax. So I knew I was going to need to Mod Podge these stickers anyway. So I've got some matte finish Mod Podge, and I'm being very gentle as I'm going over the stickers because I knew that they were likely to shift on me a little bit. And some of them I even lifted them up just a tiny bit and put a little Mod Podge underneath them because, like I said, they're just not sticking well with the antique wax. But with the Mod Podge, they ended up sticking just fine. Just getting a couple Mod Podge clumps out of there. But I gave that a nice good coat, and I did go around the edges because I didn't want any paint or anything to chip off the edges since it was metal. And then I'm going in, I got this huge giant thing of jute. This was brand new, still in the packaging from Hobby Lobby, but I got it at a thrift store for like $6. So I'll be using this for the rest of my life. And I just wanted to put some detail around the edges. I also wanted an easy way to cover up those holes where the clipboard pieces had been. So I used a thicker part of the twine of the jute because you know how some pieces are just a little bit bulkier if you've used jute at all. So I used some of the fatter sections to cover that. And then I'm just using some hot glue to attach this around the perimeter. Now, hot glue and metal aren't an excellent pair because the metal causes the hot glue to cool quickly. So as you can see, I'm doing just little sections at a time. And it's holding just fine. If I wanted to, I could definitely go around and pull it off of the sign, but it's holding absolutely fine. So let me know what you think of this one. I was happy how this one came out. I like the different fonts. I like just the subtle little details in this neutral sign. Up next, I have this little star sign. This was picked up from Hobby Lobby last year on clearance. I paid maybe 20 cents for it. I love to pick up after season clearance. It is the way to go. And if I'm just going to make it over, I don't really care half the time what it looks for. I'm just looking at the general shape and material. So I'm just going to go in. This was really easy to sand down. I sanded off where the sticker had been and I sanded off the writing just so that it would cover a little bit better. And I'm just going in with some Waverly chalk paint in the color white. I just wanted to kind of give it a crisp, clean look. So obviously nothing drastic here. And then once that was fully coated, I did the whole thing, like the edges and everything too, just because it was a little scuffed up. I'm using some washi tape just because it is a different thickness than painter's tape. My head gets in the way a lot, so I'm not able to show you a lot of this, but you get the idea. I'm using the tape to create the spacers, and we're making some stripes. So I don't think I pushed this down very good because I did have a decent amount of bleed through, and I use washi tape a lot and don't have a problem, but it's okay. We cleaned it up. So I'm going in with some antique wax by Waverly and then just one thin coat, and then I'm going to peel off all of our little pieces of tape, and you're going to reveal your stripes. I did these stripes just perfectly horizontal. I didn't want them on an angle because I was resembling the stripes on a flag, but you can see the bleed through here. I'm not really sure. I just think I was moving too quickly and didn't put the washi tape down super great. But despite the fact that my head is in the way, I am using a tiny little paintbrush to just clean up the edges a little bit. I didn't make it perfect because these are definitely more rustic DIYs, but I did want to clean it up a bit. If you are new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. If you're not familiar with YouTube and how it works, there's a subscribe button. It costs you nothing. Just click on that. If it still says subscribe, then you're not subscribed, because if you were, it would say subscribed. So just subscribe. That helps YouTube know that you want to see more of my videos. It helps me out, and it makes sure that you don't miss out on my future videos. I did clean up the edges a little bit of on the star with a little bit of white paint as well. And then I'm just wrapping a little bit of jute twine and tying it in a knot. I didn't do a bow or anything. I just wanted a little subtle, simple addition here, just a little detail. And it's probably wise to use the lighter to burn off the fuzzies before you attach it to items, but sometimes I act quickly and not always with wisdom while I'm crafting. So use with caution. But that's how this one came out. I thought it was just the twine was just a nice little subtle touch, and it kind of coordinated with the other DIYs. That is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know which one is your favorite down below. Do you prefer neutrals or colors? Of course, you can switch these up and add color if you'd like. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.